Hello, everybody, and happy Thursday, and welcome to another edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com. And
it's Wednesday, John.
What did I say, Thursday?
Yeah.
Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. It's been a busy week. John Schmelk, Paul Dottino with you. The phone number is 201-939-4513. Given I was on yesterday and said Tuesday, I probably should have been able to put two and two together. But it is what it is. So we are here. Brian Daboll just had his midweek press conference. Of course, Big Blue Kickoff Live is presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. And Paul, we did get some news from Brian Daboll today. I'm going to roll through the injury stuff. You stop me or add if I get any of this wrong. Because we went through a lot of names very quickly. So Daniel Jones' status remains unchanged.
Correct.
They said he feels a little bit better, but he's still not going to do team reps. He's not cleared for contact. So he's going to be limited to practice today.
Yep.
Now here are the changes. John Michael Schmitz and Andrew Thomas are back at practice.
Limited.
They'll be limited. Doesn't mean they're going to play this week. This is a test, as Brian Daboll put it. See how they react at practice. See how they react to practice. And then they'll see whether or not those guys are ready to get back on the field this week. Also, Saquon Barkley. Remember, he had that arm thing. Adoree Jackson, Evan Neal, Darren Waller. I believe those are all the names. Will all be limited. And he did not mention Wandale. He's been getting Wednesday, recovery days for the knee, but he did not mention him today. And then Leonard Williams will get a vet day today. So those are the names I had.
That's exactly what my list says as well. And, look, let's not kid ourselves. It's only Wednesday. And the real status report does not come out until Friday. So much could change in the next 48 hours.
Remember, Leonard Williams practiced before the Seahawks game on a Wednesday, and then all of a sudden he was out of practice. So it's important
Thomas,
to see how.
you mean.
What did I say, Leonard Williams?
Yes.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas. Sorry, yes, Andrew Thomas. We'll have to see how these guys react after a day of practice.
That's
today.
why I don't want to throw a party yet.
I'm not throwing a party.
No, I'm just the folks out there.
I'm just giving updated.
The arrow's trending a little bit up, but it's not there yet.
Well, look, we haven't seen John Michael Schmitz or Andrew Thomas practice in weeks. So just the mere fact they're out there is certainly a good sign.
Yeah, no doubt. And
they're going to need those guys this week, by the way, against a Cowboys and 49ers level pass rush. It's that good.
I think the thing about Thomas, and we've seen him around now for the, better part of a month and a half, be out of the lineup. When he first got hurt, you'll remember against Dallas, John, we saw him for a few weeks, and he was noticeably limping when he would come out to watch practice or when we would see him in the locker room. Last week, it was greatly reduced, noticeably reduced. And so I felt like, okay, there must be significant progress in Andrew Thomas because now,
by the way, if you're limping around with a hamstring injury,
that's
that means
not
it's
good.
a really bad hamstring injury. Because usually, if a guy has a hamstring, you can walk around just fine. It's only when you try to open up that you have something. But if you're feeling that just walking around, that is not the best.
That's why when I saw him walking around at the end of last week with a very, very slight, maybe he was walking a little slow, maybe, but I was like, okay, there's a lot of improvement going on here. Because as I have just described, we've seen him significantly limping at times in the locker room. So I think there was a big improvement in Thomas. Now, whether or not he goes out there today and is able to do what they need him to do, or can do it again tomorrow, or can do it again on Friday, or for that matter, could have a setback. Who knows? But things are certainly in the right direction for him. I think I'm going to tend to be optimistic.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. And again, the way it's kind of worked, Paul, since Brian Daboll's gotten here, guys, they come back, they have that kind of first set of practices a little bit, and then sometimes it does take another week for them to go from limited to full, and then they play.
Yeah.
That's kind of been the pattern. Obviously, every injury and every guy is different, but that's kind of been how this medical staff and coaching staff has handled it since Brian Daboll's been here. So to your point, step in the right direction. We'll see if it can be accelerated a little bit and they can go from nothing to everything in just a week's time.
I think some good news too, John. We've got some really unseasonably warm weather this week.
Yeah, you're rocking the shorts, Paulie.
I am.
Show off those
You
legs,
guys can't
baby.
see that, but I do have shorts on today again. I broke them out this morning. I had put them away a week ago, but I broke them out again.
Which you don't like to do. Usually when they're away with Paul.
I know. But I did. I was premature, and so now I brought them back. And we'll have them on the rest of the week. We're going to be in the 70s, maybe even 80 over the weekend, I understand.
By the way,
that helps.
It's probably good because then you can just keep them out when we travel to Vegas, where it's going to be toasty.
Yes, very nice.
So then when you come back, it might be after Vegas, post Vegas. Maybe Dallas you can pull them off at for a week. I don't know. We'll see.
Potentially. One time I did go to the second week of December.
I remember that year. It was unseasonably warm, and but then you started getting cocky and you pushed it. You were a little mental at that point.
Well, I was dared to go past Halloween.
Well, I remember.
And I said, Halloween? You're kidding me. I'm going past Thanksgiving. And I went into the second week of December. Yeah.
I believe you got sick because of it, though, at some point, didn't you?
I don't remember that. But in any event.
All right, get on the lines, folks. 201-939-4513. All right, I started doing heavy Jet stuff yesterday after I got off with Howard. And we'll talk about their defense in a second. I will start their offense. And I'm going to try to say this in the correct manner. The numbers are not great.
Okay.
They're not great. If you take a look at a lot of their metrics, I'm just going to give you some over-the-top numbers here. 29th in EPA per play, 30th in success rate, 30th in yards per game, 29th in pass yards per play, last in the league in third down efficiency, last in the league in red zone efficiency, 26th in the league in plays of 20 or more yards, 27th in the league in runs of 10 or more yards. It's not great. They're actually ranked below the Giants in a lot of those categories. And there aren't that many teams that are ranked below the Giants in those categories. And look, they're up around, I don't have this in front of me, I believe it's around 18 points per game. Mm-hmm. But the big reason those numbers are where they are and they're at 18 points per game is because they're third in the league in takeaways. And they've gotten so many points off of those takeaways.
Correct.
So for me, I'm just going to go 20,000-foot view here, Paul, because we got a lot of people on the line. We have 2 more days to do a heavy preview of this.
Sure.
Giants protect the ball in this game, don't turn over, they're going to win. If they don't give the Jets offense short fields or allow their defense to score points or special teams to score points, I feel very confident. Again, there are no guarantees. It's the NFL. Things change. I feel very confident the Giants will have a really good chance to win this football game.
I concur, John. I believe, like I felt against Washington this past weekend, Barkley has to have a big game, and he did.
Yep, and that is if there is a weakness to this Jets defense, and there aren't many, it's probably their rush defense.
Barkley must take maximum advantage of whatever softness there is in the Jets D so that the Giants can control the game flow and the tempo of the game. And, of course, as you say, play mistake-free. That's the easiest path to victory for New York. I'm in New York, for Big Blue.
The difference between last week and this week, though, we knew Washington's secondary was a mess. They gave up so many big plays. Mm-hmm. We knew that there would be opportunities there, and the Giants found those opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. 6 passes of 20 or more yards, 3 of those for 30 or more yards. That's not necessarily the case here for the Jets. Just to give you an idea of the secondary. Do you know what opponent passer rating is on passes that travel at least 20 yards in the air against the Jets defense this year?
Do you hear that?
Yeah, it's probably coming off your phone, but I think that's just in the headphones.
No, that's your phone. Sorry.
So we don't need to bring that up.
Sorry. Sorry,
okay.
Folks.
It's fine. Do you know what the Jets passer rating is on passes that travel at least 20 yards in the air this year? 0.
Are Reed and Gardner playing?
We don't know that. Now, they have given up some big plays. A lot of that is catch and run stuff. It's not passes down the field. But look, Gardner suffered a concussion now. It'll be 3 calendar weeks since he suffered the injury.
But the first week he wasn't diagnosed. I was talking to Ralph about this.
Right.
For those of you who don't know, Ralph Ventry covers the Jets for SI. I was talking to him about this yesterday, and he said they were late in diagnosing that concussion. He didn't feel the full effects and the symptoms until almost a week after he was hurt.
Right. I would still say 2+ weeks to recover is a long time. I think we have to operate until we hear otherwise, and I'll check to see if the Jets have put out
I was just looking. I don't see anything, John.
I'll see if Rich Samini's put up anything yet. He's usually a good guy to follow for that sort of stuff. But I would, and I don't know about him. And then I believe Reed has a groin or hamstring. I know it's a soft
groin.
Tissue, groin, right? That's
I believe it's a groin.
So, we'll see about that in terms of whether or not those guys are ready to go. But that's a good point. They do have some injuries on the back end.
I think as far as
I don't see any Jet stuff out there yet.
Yeah, as far as the game flow here, I'm really of the opinion that 20 points wins the game. I think the Giants' defense outside of the Miami game for the last month has played the kind of ball that you can feel confident about, that you can say we're going to have a chance. because they're controlling other teams' offenses. They're not outside of the short fields that they've had to give up because of either a special teams mistake or an offensive mistake. Teams have not had a great amount of success trying to consistently drive the ball against them. So I would say this, 20 points wins the game. Whoever gets the 21st probably wins. So to your point, the team that makes the mistakes in the turnover category is probably going to be really sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And which one of these teams can make those handful of big plays and chunk plays on offense that will allow you to get some points without having to sustain those long drives, which I think will be a challenge for both teams this week.
I'll give you one really, really big concern of mine, John, which is kind of the wild card.
Breece Hall?
No. I'm talking about X Factor, the thing that's under the radar.
Okay, under the radar.
Special teams.
Okay. Well, I mentioned specials before, yeah.
Gibson averaging over 13 and a half yards per punt return.
Oh, he had the game-winning punt return for a touchdown against the Bills.
And he can break one.
Nice fact.
He is really, really good. The hidden yardage on special teams, when we're talking about the fact that the offenses on both sides could be challenged, the hidden yards on special teams could make things so much easier for either one of these offenses to get some points, even if they're only field goals. That to me is the X factor that you really can't count on. You just don't know.
Absolutely. 201-939-4513. You're listening to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Don't forget to go subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. Most recent episode, my interview with Sean O'Hara. It's really one of the favorite things we do all week here. Sean gives us a good 20 minutes talking about the game against Washington last week. He goes in-depth on the offensive line. We go in-depth on the defensive line as well, and we do a little look ahead to the Jets. So check that out on the Giants Huddle podcast. That's presented by Citizens, by the way, the official bank of the Giants. That's on the Giants app, giants.com/podcast, or just search for Giants Huddle on your favorite podcast platform. Same for all our podcasts, including our brand new one, Giants Hangout. It's on twice a week. Make sure you go subscribe to that as well. And coming up tomorrow, we're going to have Matt Ryan on the Giants Huddle podcast. Lance and I talked to him this morning. He was very generous with his time. He did an excellent job, and he was fantastic. We thank him for doing that. And then we had Papa's perspective as well. Bob goes back in time and talks to Brandon Jacobs about the Giants-Jets rivalry. As you're aware, Paul, Brandon Jacobs not a big fan of the Jets.
Not at all.
Nor Rex Ryan.
Not at all.
There's some really good stories in that. I'm not sure if that's up quite yet. If it's not up right now, it will be shortly. Really good Brandon Jacobs stories from that 2011 game against the Jets. That Victor Cruz eventually had that big play. But awesome stories from Brandon. Make sure you go check that out. All right, 201-939-4513. I'm going to go to line 3 first because he's calling all the way from Hawaii.
Oh.
And that is Jay. Jay, what's going on?
How early is it, Jay?
How hot?
How early?
Early.
It's in the morning. Yeah, it's hot, but I mean, so I used to call you guys a lot back in the day. I was calling from England and Japan at the time because I'm in the military, but I'm back in Hawaii now.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah, no, definitely. I want to talk about Daniel Jones, and I want to preface this conversation by saying I understand how the O-line affects the quarterback, and I understand that we have not had a good O-line in a very, very long time. And you cannot put that on a young quarterback or any type of quarterback in general. But the things that I've seen from Daniel Jones that does not give me the confidence, and I want to see what you guys think about it, is his mechanics, right? The footwork. Sometimes he stares down one receiver, reads one side of the field, doesn't go through his progressions as fast as you would want, right, a quarterback in his 5th year to do. And we look at the disparity or the difference between Tyrod and Jones and what Tyrod's able to do as a veteran, right? Stepping up into the pocket, dropping his shoulder when a rush comes in, sidestepping or juking a defensive end as they're coming in to give the illusion of time that the O-line has or maybe doesn't have. Could you guys talk a little bit about that? Because I feel like I'm not saying that we make excuses for Daniel Jones, but I think we tend to not hold him as accountable as we should for a quarterback that's been in the league this long and getting paid as much as he does.
Well, Jay, Jay, real fast. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, sure.
I want to ask you a question before you go. Would you agree that Would you agree that the two best games the Giants have had in pass protection this year were the game against the Cardinals and the game against the Commanders? Were those the two best pass protection games for the Giants?
I would think, the Cardinals game, we had pretty good protection then. And then you said the Seattle or?
No, Washington, the one from this week.
No, we had good protection then. I think Glowinski stepped up and did pretty good that game.
I agree 100%. Yeah. What were the two best production games passing-wise for Giants quarterbacks this year?
So that second quarter of the Cardinals game and that last game with the
second half in Arizona.
Yeah, and the other thing those two games have in common is that Saquon Barkley was on the field for both both of those games. So I'm not taking away from I'm not taking away from what Tyrod has done well. I think you make some good points. I think he's made quick decisions. He's gotten the ball down the field quicker than maybe we've seen Daniel do before. I think that's fair. Those kind of quick passes down the sideline, I like those. That's a good job. Mm-hmm. He's very good at that. No argument. I think Tyrod is elusive in the pocket, to your point. He's probably a little bit quicker than Daniel is in terms of things like that. I agree. But the other factors are still there. And I think there are things that Daniel does better than Tyrod. I think Daniel, for example, as a bigger quarterback, can pepper the middle of the field a little bit better than Tyrod Taylor can, for example. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate the call, Jay. Good stuff. I appreciate you being a loyal listener and calling from all the different places you've been stationed. And again, thank you for your service. I just think that all those things together do paint a picture here, and it's not an excuse. There are reasons why Daniel hasn't had the success this year over the course of those 5 games. And part of that is on Daniel too, right? He's had some bad plays in there. The interception on the goal line against Seattle, that game could have been different. That game could have been a win if he doesn't make that throw. He's had some bad luck happen to him, like the 2 passes to Saquon early in the year where the ball gets kind of bounced up into the air and they turn interceptions. That's bad luck. So you put all that together, and we actually have a really good talk. Again, Giants Huddle tomorrow. That'll be Thursday. We talked to Matt Ryan about what the impact of having a musical chair offensive line situation in front of
he knows,
and what the volume of hits on a quarterback can do to a quarterback mentally. And I think that's the other thing, Paul, and I didn't mean to give such a long answer and squeeze you out here.
Everything you're saying is accurate.
The volume of hits that Jones had to take over those first 5 games? 4 games? 5 games?
5. While Tyrod was holding a clipboard.
They accumulate mentally. And what Matt Ryan told Lance and I today, because I asked him this exact question, because I was curious, because I know the fans want to know this stuff, so I asked Matt about it as someone that's played the position. He goes, look, you almost have to trick yourself into believing everything's going to be okay up front, even when you know in your mind it's not. Because he talked about a game where they had to put Levine Toilolo at offensive tackle for a game.
A tight end for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, also a former Giant. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you have to trick your mind into believing something that you know in your heart is not true. And he goes, it's really hard, and especially for a young quarterback. And he said, I had to learn to do this as a veteran, and it took me a long time to figure this out, especially when it came to taking a lot of hits. You have to train your body and your mind, even though they're rebelling against you instinctually, to not let the hits affect the way you play. And he said probably the first half of his career, give or take, it was really hard for him to do that. So those are just some of the things that he expressed as to why things were so difficult for Daniel early this year.
Give you 2 other reasons. Hyatt has played a whole bunch in the last 2 weeks, and they've been throwing the ball downfield to him. He was barely playing when Daniel Jones was in the lineup.
I believe the last game Daniel played, he was at around 60% of the snaps. So I think he had one game where Hyatt played a decent amount.
They didn't really call for him, though.
Well, Daniel didn't throw it to him.
Didn't have any time. Okay. So Hyatt's been more worked into the game plan since Tyrod Taylor is now in the lineup. Mm-hmm. That is certainly a factor. The other factor is game flow. Daniel Jones did not take one snap with the Giants in the lead the entire season.
Now, part of that is the offense not scoring, but a lot of it is the defense not playing as well as they are today.
And Tyrod Taylor has had the luxury of several minutes and many, many minutes in last week's case of playing with a lead.
And the Bills game. They
had it for some.
For 3.5 quarters in that game. The Bills didn't score to the start of the fourth quarter, right?
So
or the middle of the third?
I didn't actually clock out the minutes and the seconds they had the lead, but that makes a huge difference. Game flow is important. It does change the way coaches will call plays, whether it's on offense or on defense. So, you listed a bunch of them. I gave you 2 more. There's a slew of reasons why Tyrod Taylor has had better conditions and a better environment than Daniel Jones had in terms of this season's operation. That's just a fact. I will also tell you, I think Tyrod Taylor, as I've always said, is one of the top 10 and maybe one of the top 6 backup quarterbacks in the league.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I am glad the Giants have Tyrod Taylor. I don't think the quarterback is going to make a difference in this game. I told you what I think. 20 points will win it. Saquon Barkley is a much more important factor in this game than either Tyrod Taylor or Daniel Jones.
I will say, though, the quarterback protecting the football is a big deal in this game.
Again, mistakes.
Right, and who is the ball? Generally speaking, 80% of turnovers go on the quarterback just because of the
but as you said,
in their hands
Jones, has had some deflections too now.
So
that's not on him. He's not careless with the ball.
No, I wasn't making the point that Jones is more turnover prone than Tyrod. I was just saying that you think the quarterback doesn't matter in this game.
No.
My point is that the quarterback matters in terms of protecting the football. That was the only point I was making.
Absolutely. But in terms of which guy is playing quarterback,
correct.
Saquon Barkley, like he was the key against Washington offensively, is the key offensively against the Jets. It's not about whether Jones or Taylor plays, because I believe their role in this game will be very, very similar.
Though it turned out last week, Tyrod was super important in that game against Washington. He was
he made some plays, but the same kind of plays that I believe Jones would have made.
That's fine. That's a different argument. But last week, Tyrod was a bigger deal. The Giants won than Barkley in that game.
I don't think so. Personally, I don't.
He for 280 yards. And Saquon ran for 75 and didn't have one run more than 10 yards.
Yeah, but Saquon made the move on the catch that went for a 30-plus yard touchdown, which was the difference in the game.
But he had five other 20-yard pass plays in the game.
Yeah, but here's the other part to that. With Barkley in the lineup, they played different defense.
Well, no, that's true. That's fair.
And that's
huge. I just meant in terms of production.
Stat-wise, yes. Environment-wise, game flow-wise, game plan-wise, Saquon Barkley made a huge difference in that game. To me, he was the biggest impact.
No. I'm not saying he didn't make a difference. I was just saying in terms of, Tyrod was a big reason the Giants scored 14 points in that game.
He executed at a high level, and I'm very glad for that.
And on that,
without Barkley in the game, though, I guarantee you that does not happen.
Oh no, and that's a different argument. I don't necessarily disagree with that. That's fine. But give Tyrod some credit too on that little flare pass to Barkley. He did have to do a good job of stepping up in the pocket there to free himself to make that throw too.
No doubt.
I just don't want to take credit away from Tyrod because I thought he played a really nice game.
I think he absolutely played a nice game. I just feel the circumstances and the situation was set up better for him because Barkley was doing well.
I'm not arguing against that.
So we're good.
100% true. All right, let's go to Joey down in Florida. Joey, thanks for waiting. I wanted to make sure we got Jay in Hawaii in first since he was calling from halfway across the Pacific Ocean. Joey, what's up?
Aloha.
Hey, how you doing?
What's up, man?
I completely understand about that. Well, you kind of spoke on my point already about Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. I love Tyrod Taylor. I loved him ever since I started watching him from the Chargers. That's when I really started following him. Absolutely love him. So no disrespect to him at all. But Daniel Jones is our quarterback. Playing.
And by the way, Joey, just for the record, Brian Dable was asked that again today because Wilson called yesterday and asked about this. Brian Dable was asked again today at the press conference. So when Daniel Jones come back and see the team starting quarterback, Dable said yes. Mm-hmm. Flat. Period. Stop.
Absolutely.
So,
and you know what?
It is what it is.
We should add one other thing, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we forgot before, and it's important.
What's that?
Somebody asked Dable today about the trade rumors with Barkley, why did you say that you had to go up and talk to him? And Dable said, I heard about the rumors. I heard the stuff that was out there, and I went up to him and I told him it's not happening.
We're not sending you anywhere.
It's not happening.
That was the other thing.
So you can toss all that internet crap to the side, too.
Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, so, Giants fans, pretty typical. They see one quarterback doing well, and they want him in the lineup. Obviously, I think we should just be happy that we have two great quarterbacks that can drive this team down the field, give us some wins. Daniel Jones has given us more touchdowns in that last half of the Cardinals than Tyrod has given us in the 2 games. No disrespect to Tyrod. O-line is definitely better. Because Barkley's back causes different schemes for the defense. But you guys spoke on that already, so I'll move to my next point. But I think the emergence of McFadden is so refreshing. He's doing so well ever since, the first 2 weeks. Everybody was dogging him because he was missing some tackles, and he has really stepped up and improved his game.
Yeah.
So it is really refreshing to see that we have such a good duo in Okereke and McFadden. It's just such a relief since we've had like a void on that spot for so many years now.
Yeah, and Joey, and I think the thing about McFadden is that he hasn't been put in as many of those one-on-one tackling situations. They've done a much better job of gang tackling, for one. I think that's been important. But the one thing that I think is key is that even when he was missing those tackles, he tended to get to the right place in a timely timely manner, timely fashion. So I think that's the most important thing. He gets there. He's never going to be the best coverage guy. He's more of a downhill player. That's just what he is. That's why a lot of times you'll see Simmons out there on passing situations instead of McFadden. But you're right. He's done a nice job. I think he's been a good complementary piece to Okereke, and I think mentally both those guys have things so squared away, it definitely helps the middle of that defense.
Pro Football Reference, which uses Sports Radar for their tracking, they have McFadden in the last 3 games for 1, 0, and 1 missed tackle.
Yep.
After he had 1, 3, and 3 in the first 3 weeks of the season. So that's to your point.
7 versus 2. Yep.
I would also add Bobby Okereke in the last 4 games has been absolutely incredible. He's had at least 10 tackles in each of the last 4 games. Over that time, he's had 6 passes defensed, a couple of tackles for a loss, a forced fumble, an interception. Bobby Okereke has had the best month of middle linebacker football. And I'm going back past Blake Martinez. I'm going back to Antonio Pierce.
I'll say 2 games.
He's playing really well.
I'll say 2 games. I don't want to give him a lot of credit for that Miami game. I don't care how many tackles he had. When you give up 500 yards of offense.
Yeah, all right. All right, you want to take that back? I mean,
that one I want to take back. But the last 2 games, phenomenal.
He was really good against Seattle, too. I know he had the missed tackle on Fant, but the rest of the game, he was really good.
No, that's fair, too. No argument there. Miami, I want to back off a little bit.
All right. I'll give you that because you know what? You can't give up that many yards and actually let anybody have any praise. Correct. That's a really good point.
And I also think Simmons has been, very underrated ever since we acquired him. I don't see many Giants fans talking about him, but he seems to always be around the ball, always be around the person that's going to get the ball.
I got to talk to Wink about him. I got to talk to Wink, though, because I thought he was going to be more of a blitzer, and they said he was. He wanted to be. They said he was going to, and they're not blitzing him very much.
Well, and in fairness, they blitzed him on the last play against Washington.
I know.
He missed the damn sack right in his lap.
He had it.
And that could have cost him the game.
He had it.
Easily could have cost him the game.
He had it.
Joey, what's your final
Let him get
point?
away. Yep.
Yeah, just one point before I go.
Yeah.
The Giants-Jets game, it's going to be very defense-heavy. I don't see a lot of offensive touchdowns happening. I think this is going to come down to takeaways. I think that's gonna define the whole game.
Yeah, we agree. Joey, good stuff, man. Appreciate the call. Good points. And the Giants have done well with takeaways the last few weeks. They were +3 against Buffalo, +3 against Miami, +2 against Buffalo. They were -1 last week. 2, they had the muff punt, which kind of inched it back, and then the fumble at the end. And Washington just had that 1 turnover. So, but you still won -1, which was a nice job. As a lot of times those things can swing the game.
If you're going to go by your theory about the quarterback having the ball the most and the guy who's got to avoid the mistakes the most, I'll put my money on Taylor or Jones against Wilson.
Absolutely. 100%.
And against Wink.
I agree. Yeah, and we actually talked to Matt Ryan about that too on that huddle that's coming up. And the Wink, and he really thinks the way Wink plays is going to give Zach Wilson a lot of trouble in terms of the different blitzes, some guys coming, some guys not, and all that stuff. So Wilson's done a better job this year of avoiding the big mistake like he has in years past. He's cut down on his turnovers.
He's done some better.
The production is still not where you need it to be in order to consistently win games. But in terms of avoiding the turnovers, yes. But I do see how Wink's system and the way his aggressive nature of bringing people and mixing up disguising what you're doing up front could give Zach Wilson some agita. Let me see if I have it in front of me here. Against pressure this year, do I have it in front of me? Zach Wilson is just 27 of 66, 41% completion rate for 279 yards on, again, 66 attempts. That's just 4.2 yards per attempt with a pick. So under pressure, he's had some issues this year, needless to say.
And should we remind people the Giants' pressure rate of 42%, second in the league?
That's the Jets.
Oh. Well, the Giants try.
Well, no, look, and I'm not a big fan.
The blitz rate is second. Giants blitz rate is second.
I'm not a
That's
big
what it
fan
is.
of next-gen stats pressure rates because all they do is take distance from the quarterback.
Yeah,
which
I know.
I'm not a big fan of the way they do it. I prefer the way PFF does, and they have the Giants in the top 6 or 7 because of so many
Right.
blitzes that they run. Now, that's a product of the blitzing, not a product of the winning up front, but it is there, and that's why quarterbacks have to get rid of the ball relatively quickly. Back to the phones at 201-939-4513. Let's go to Cliff in New York. He's up next. Hi, Cliff.
Hey guys, thanks for the great stuff as usual. I got a little bit to add about Tyrod and Daniel if there's time, but I wanted to talk about what the defense did last week and going into this game this week against a defense for the other team that was very, very highly rated at the outset of the season and was so good that all they needed was to get a 37-year-old quarterback and they would be Super Bowl champs. So I'm thinking about how good our defense just might be because there was an eerie, historic similarity to what they did on Sunday. I was thinking about it as soon as the score got to be 14-7.
Be careful,
and Washington was losing.
Go
Be
ahead.
careful.
Go
Pump
ahead.
the brakes.
No. Go
Pump the
ahead.
brakes.
Let's go ahead. I want to hear your point.
All right.
But remember, it was
Okay.
it was Sam Howell. Go ahead.
It was Sam Howell. I don't care.
Well, it was Josh Allen the week before.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Well, this goes back further. The Giants are up 14-0. They give up only 46 yards, I think it was, in the whole first half. And when the second half starts, they stop them again. And then comes the muff. So and this is happening in a game where everybody knows we really need a win. You know, I mean, if we ever needed a win more than this one, I don't know when it was.
This weekend.
Yeah.
And next weekend.
That's right. That's the trouble with singling out, you know, big games and must-win games. They are all must-win games. So anyway, you can't blame the defense when you let them start at the 20. That to me, you know, is tough to handle, especially with the enemy, the OC on the other side. So now it's 14-7, and you got to sit there thinking, oh my God, is this going to really, you know, give them a chance to get back in the game? Yada yada yada. Well, this happened years ago. Washington is down 14-0, and the other team is completely dominating them, and I'm pretty sure it's in the second half. And all of a sudden, the opponent's special teams really messes up badly on a field goal attempt. It was either a bad snap or a fumbled snap. I didn't look it up. But I do remember what happened. The kicker, in his great wisdom, who had quite possibly never even handled a football in his life, decided that he would throw a pass. And when he got up to throw the ball, he looked like a ballet dancer. And when he let it go, it was a perfect floater into the hands of the defender who took it back to the house.
You're talking about Gary Upremian and Mike Bass. Yeah, in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't get so what's the point?
Yeah, Cliff, what's the point?
The point is, what did their defense do the rest of the game? The Miami defense, the rest of that game.
They finished the job. That's what they did. They finished the job.
That's right. They didn't give up a damn thing, and the only thing about that defense was that they were only the defense that was the defense for the only team to have a perfect season. So it was an eerie similarity, all right? I know I have to be careful.
That is Cliff, I hope you didn't pull a hamstring reaching like you did there. Hope you didn't pull any muscles.
Oh, he ripped a bicep is what he did.
That, my friend, that is a reach. All right, what's your second point on the quarterback, Cliff?
But John, I didn't pull the bicep. Remembering how I felt when Yepremian threw that ball, I'm thinking, oh my God, they're not only going to lose the Super Bowl game, they're going to lose the perfect season.
I got you, Cliff.
Okay.
What's your point on the quarterbacks? What's your point on the quarterbacks?
Okay. Here's the thing I was thinking about. First of all, about Daniel. You can't talk about Daniel's 5 years. I refer back to what John Mara said when the second contract was being negotiated. We did everything we could to mess up Daniel Jones. Remember that? Something to that effect? Yeah. So he's not really a 5-year quarterback. And it wasn't just the offensive line. It was the coaching changes and no Saquon being out completely.
A million
all that
things.
stuff.
Yeah.
All that stuff. With Tyrod, what I was thinking about listening yesterday was, if there was individual player introductions before the game, they would say, and playing tight end, and playing. They wouldn't say, and playing backup quarterback. They don't say that. They would say quarterback. He's not a backup quarterback because you only want to have him when somebody goes down in the middle of the game and he's got to put his helmet on and go in.
Yeah, what's your point,
Somebody
Cliff?
he's capable of being a starter. He is a starting quarterback. He's a starting quarterback that's serving as a backup. That's what he is. He's a very, very good player. Everybody knew that. I was following him in his previous career too. I was a fan of his when he was in Buffalo. So it's no surprise that he does great. And yes, he is, as you said, he is a little more elusive in the pocket. So that's very nice. But he's a starting quarterback in the National Football League when he's called on to be one, and he prepares every week to be one.
Got it. Thank you, Cliff. Appreciate the call, man.
Okay.
Cliff's a great caller, but that one was rather odd. I'm sorry, Cliff. That was kind of out of bounds.
I'll just add two things very briefly. One, Giants' defense was phenomenal last week. I don't know about the comparison. That game occurred 8 years before I was born, whatever it was. Actually, what year was that? Was that Super Bowl 80?
He's talking. That would be the. Oh God, what number was that?
Out.
I don't even know what number. Just forget it.
No,
Just
I
move
don't know the
on.
number. What year did the Dolphins have their undefeated season?
Oh, 72.
72. Yes, I was right. That was 9 years before I was born. So
Yeah, I don't even remember the number, what that was.
I got nothing for you there. But the defense was dominant last week. They deserve credit for that win, more so than anyone else we've talked about. That goes without saying. The defense was phenomenal. They were great. They were off the charts. Dexter Lawrence dominated the game. It was
wow.
They did great job, no question about it. And yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of where you are. And I'll just say this too. Is this the best week? If they're not going to bring Daniel back unless he's 100% ready to go. And that's going to be the guiding factor here, obviously, and it should be the guiding factor. But I'm not sure if I want his first game back against the Jets pass rush. I'm not going to lie. I mean...
No, you don't want that?
Third best pressure rate in the league.
Right.
Dallas and... who's the other team? There's only one other team besides Dallas that's ahead of them. This is an apex-level pass rush. They don't have the sack numbers. Teams been getting the ball out before they've gotten home. But in terms of pressure rate, they are at the top of the league. And this is one of the top. And after a slow start early, they've really rounded into form the last couple of weeks as a defense. Well, again, we'll see if Reed and Gardner can play. Those are big deals. And those guys will matter. But, this is... I don't know if this is the guy. I don't know if this is the team you want your starting quarterback that's taking a million hits and has a bag neck to come back against. Look, if he's healthy, he's going to play. But I'm just talking from an abstract perspective.
I understand. Ultimately, they will go to the medical folks, and if the medical folks give him the green, even Dable was asked if he gets cleared for contact later in the week, would you take him in the game? And Dable said, we'll see how many days is he going to get.
The window was left wide.
He absolutely left it open that, let's say Daniel Jones gets cleared on Friday or Saturday. It sounds like that is a very real possibility.
And I'm not saying that they should sit him if he's healthy. That's not.
No.
That is not what I'm saying.
He gets the clearance, he's going to play.
Correct, and he should play. I was just talking from an abstract.
I understand the point.
20,000-foot view.
And again, I will refer to what I said to you earlier. I don't think they have to have Daniel Jones to play to win the game. I don't think they do.
Let's go to Joe in Pennsylvania. He wants to talk about the guy that Paul thinks is most important to win this game this week. Joe, what's up?
Oh, it's nice to be playing respectable ball. That was a first 4 or 5 games really there. On defense, I observed, I think might help there. The cooler weather maybe for our defensive linemen up front there might have helped them a little bit there. It started in Buffalo and then with Washington and maybe our defensive backs, the young guys getting a little more experience. On offense, I agree everything you were saying with Daniel and everything like that. But the one thing they didn't do with Daniel that much that they did with Tyrod is they just didn't let him go back and sit in the middle of the pocket. They rolled him out. I thought that was a big difference too, and I hope they do more of that. And what else? Who's going to return our punts this week?
It's either going to be Darius Slayton or their new addition.
Gunner.
Do you want to do the last name for me?
No. Gunner. Gunner is his first name, and I'm going to stick with that because Dable's sticking with it. He knows him from his days with the Patriots.
I didn't even try the last name today.
So he said this week you'll have Gunner, you'll have Slayton, you'll have Shepard, and you'll have Adoree Jackson all return punts at practice this week.
Adoree's
That's what he said.
Back.
4 guys we're going to return kicks at practice this week.
Oh, that's good. I didn't hear anything. Is any of the offensive linemen going to be back, or is that all questionable too?
Schmitz and Thomas are limited at practice today, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, well, we'll see. Everything's game time then. One other thing I'm going to ask here: who's the
Neil too. Neil was going to work today too.
Yeah,
I forgot
limited.
that.
That's
limited as well. I'm sorry, I forgot him.
Did they bring in that running back we cut that I thought was the best in spring training from Carolina? Did they bring him back?
Deshaun Corbin was signed off. Was
Carolina's
back.
practice
That's
squad.
correct, yes.
So he's on the 53.
Yes, because he replaced Eric Gray, who had to go on injured reserve.
Yep.
Oh, I that guy, even when they were in the backfield on him, he just has quick feet and he gained yardage. I think he could be really something special there for Barkley and helping in the run game, really and truly. So that's about all, and just keep going, Giants. That's all I'm saying. It's nice to be threading water a little way. I feel when you watch a game that we have a chance. Them first few were rough. So thanks for taking my call.
Thank you. And by the way, I was wrong, Paul. We do have some injury news from the Jets, by the way.
What do you got?
So Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, by the way, was a concussion as well. For some reason, I thought he was.
I thought he was a groin.
Apparently, he was a concussion.
Okay.
So this is from Brian Costello and Rich Cimini. Gardner and Reed have not cleared concussion protocol yet, but they will be on the practice field today to take that next step. Now, remember, here's the trick here, guys. Here's the trick.
There are 4 levels to the protocol.
No, but here's the thing. They probably haven't been in the building for 3 days.
Yeah.
So they haven't been able to run any of those tests. So this would probably be step 1. You get back on the practice field, and they would theoretically, if they're practicing today, limited, they could practice in full tomorrow, and then if they pass the concussion test after practicing in full, that's when you can then get cleared. So that could probably happen probably Friday morning, I guess would be when that test
sounds likely.
So that would be how that goes. Joe Tippmann quad did not practice. You remember he's their starting right guard, I think.
Let me look.
And then Randall Cobb will not practice today with a shoulder injury either. And Dwayne Brown's practice window will not open until next week.
Tippmann's been playing right guard.
Right guard, thank you. So that's where we are in terms of the Jets injuries.
Interesting that Deshaun Corbin should come back to the 53 because he returned a lot of kickoffs at Florida State.
Kickoffs, yes, that's correct.
And did not return punts, but did handle a bunch of kickoffs. Not full-time, but did a lot of it. And Coach did not mention him today as one of the possible return guys. Interesting.
Well, again, and then the other thing you have to figure out this week is
who's up?
The third elevate. If they have to elevate DeVito for the
Correct.
third time too, then
Correct.
They would have to sign him to the 53 if they did that. So
remember, last week they did not elevate the third tight end.
That's correct.
Which was interesting because they usually like to have 3 tight ends active on game day. Mm-hmm. They decided not to do that, obviously thinking that one of the linemen could play the third tight end in a jumbo. But, that was a little bit surprising.
Take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. They're now available. Learn more about all the exclusive member benefits at giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. And you can do single game tickets as well, Giants.com/tickets. But I do not believe there's anything out there for this weekend against the Jets. I believe it is a sold-out house. So good luck. But if you want to get tickets for future games, you can do that as well. And don't forget to download Giants TV, the Giants Connected TV streaming app. It brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. 201-939-4513.
I have the name. Olszewski.
Okay, there we go.
Gunnar Olszewski is the former Pro Bowl punt returner for the Patriots, now a Giant. The pronunciation is nothing like what it is spelled.
Yeah, that actually isn't bad. And you know what? Now that you say it, I remember him being referenced on television as Olszewski. So
yeah, I did a preseason game up at Foxborough when he was in the game for the Patriots. I now remember it in looking at the phonetics that was one of those tough ones that we had to study.
All right, let's go to Jeff in Maine. He wants to talk special teams. Jeff, what's up?
Afternoon, gentlemen. Enjoying the show. I'd like to mention how under the radar the punt coverage team has been. I think James,
not here. Not here. I love Nick McLeod. He's been doing great.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I think Jamie Gill is turning into a real weapon, and the coverage guys are doing great. And so I think it'll probably will be a defensive battle against the Jets. So it could come into play if you're gaining like an extra 5 yards on each punt exchange. You know, that can really translate into points.
Yeah, they cut down the penalties on those plays, though, a little bit.
Well, true. But I think overall they're doing a lot better. It's a concern of mine. And even kicking it inside the 50, you know, instead of kicking a short little kick straight away, Jamie's kicking into the corner, and I like that. So he can kick his full, you know, big kick. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that. And then just one other point. I would prefer not to see Adoree Jackson on the punt return team.
I concur.
That's all I got. Enjoy the show. Thanks.
All right. Appreciate the call, Jeff. Yeah, I would just put Slayton back there or Gunner if you want to elevate him, depending on what the availability is.
Yeah. Just watching a clip from inside the NFL. They did a big feature on tight ends. And
it was National Tight End Day.
It was. Mm-hmm. And Waller was one of the guys they had mic'd up, and they had an ISO camera on. And his reaction during the final play of Sunday's victory over Washington is pretty humorous.
I think it's similar to probably what yours was, watching from the sideline, to be honest with you. Let's go to Joe in New York. He's up next. Hey, Joe.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
What's
Hi.
up?
Before I get to my main point, I just wanted to give you a thank you for the Matt Ryan interview plug you did, because I've had similar thoughts about what Daniel Jones has gone through this year and about how it's affecting him mentally. So I'm going to be interested to hear what Matt has to say.
Yeah, it was really good again. That's probably not going to go up until tomorrow afternoon, so you guys will have to be patient. But when it does, it's a really, really good interview. Matt did a great job.
Okay, thank you. But now, my main point is about Paris Campbell, subtitled "Missing in Action." We signed him for a fairly nice contract. I know it's only 1 year, $5 million or so.
I don't think it was that much, was it?
Very, very modest price.
Yeah, very modest.
But go ahead.
I thought I double checked. I thought it was 5, but maybe it's less. I don't know.
Yeah, but 5 is still a modest price. That's not a lot of money for a receiver these days.
4.7. It was 4.7.
Right. Okay. But they signed him because they wanted to add to the team speed. And he did record one of the fastest, if not the fastest time recorded last year by the Amazon or whoever.
Right.
And I understand that he does play the same position as Wan'Dale. But before Wan'Dale got on his pitch count, before Wan'Dale came back, why wasn't he seeing more action?
I mean, Joe, he was playing a ton. He was on the field for a lot. I mean, he was probably over 60, 70% of the snaps. He just wasn't heavily involved. Okay. And they tried to get him the ball, but, his connection with Daniel didn't seem to be the best. A lot of the throws were not getting it to him in stride on a lot of those plays. He slipped and fell on a couple of those plays, and it was just one of those things that, in terms of the passing attack, just didn't seem to be working. And once Wan'Dale came back, they decided they wanted to prioritize his snaps over Paris.
All right, but, because they talked about going young, and, I mean, he's young, too. He's only 26, I believe.
Yeah, sure.
So, I apologize for that, because I know I haven't been able to watch the games as much as I...
No, you're fine.
usually been this year. So I just wanted to get that clarified. Thank you.
No, absolutely, Joe. Good call. He was playing first 3-4 weeks of the year. He was out there plenty.
I'm looking up the snap count numbers now. He was the check down receiver. He was the get it out quick guy.
And again, the receivers were all impacted by what was happening up front too. You know what I mean?
No doubt, without question. I'm looking for his. I'm looking for his game by game snap count, and I'm not finding it.
I can check that.
Okay. In any event, he certainly was playing a ton in the first month, and quite frankly, he was getting a lot of the targets. I thought, and we'd have to go back and check it specifically. Through the first 5 weeks, did he not have the most targets of any receiver on the team?
I can look that up too if you give me a minute.
I'm pretty damn sure.
So week 1, 38, week 1, 47 snaps, week 2, 45 snaps, 21 against San Francisco, 23 against Seattle, and then 16 against the Dolphins. That was his snap count.
It is taking a dip down. Mm-hmm. And again, I think because
that was when Wan'Dale started playing more, by the way, in week 3. So that was kind of what the line was there.
To be totally brutally honest, where was his yak yardage? Not getting it.
No, it wasn't there. In fact, I can give you how many
Not
yards
getting it.
after the catch he had.
Not getting it.
PFF had him for 44 yards after the catch all year.
And he's made, 20-something catches?
17.
17. That's not good enough.
And that was supposed to be the strength, right?
Absolutely. Route runner and supposed to be able to break away with some speed. Now, again, to defend him a bit, he was the guy who was catching a lot of the checkdowns and the quick hitters. So he wasn't getting the ball in great position beyond the line of scrimmage. But, hey, you know what? Let me ask you this question. Do you want to see more snaps of Jalen Hyatt?
And Wan'Dale Robinson. Because those guys have been very productive, and those snaps have to come from somebody, don't they, John? They do. And look, we talked about this before the year that we thought it would be a kind of wide receiver by committee type of situation.
We did.
Right now, in terms of receiving snaps, let's see here.
I'll say Slayton has the most.
Slayton is 260. Waller, I think this is just receiving snaps. Receiving snaps, any snap when running a route. So this is not including running snaps. These are just passing snaps, just so you understand. Slayton 260, Waller 257, Hyatt 165, Hodgins 144, Wan'Dale 129, Paris Campbell 119. So that's kind of where they are with that. In terms of targets, you want to know targets to what, the first 5 weeks? So what you're looking for, first 4 weeks you want to do? Just for the heck of it?
All right, first 4, sure. I think Campbell might have been the top guy.
Targets first. This is weeks 1 through 4. Campbell was second to Darren Waller with 22. Okay. Waller had 23.
Amongst receivers, though.
He was one.
He was
22.
number 1. Yeah. I mean, and you know what? Again, not to knock Paris Campbell in particular, because a lot of things with this offense have not been functioning correctly. Okay? And, if it takes a few tweaks here and there, and somebody has to be, I don't want to use the word sacrifice, but if somebody has to take a back seat because there's a tweak that they think can make things better, you have to do it. Brian Dable's not sitting there saying, oh, this guy got a 1-year contract for $4.7 million. He's got to get this. That's not the way it works.
He's looking for combinations that work where they're going to be productive. When the offense wasn't very productive early in the year, I got to try to put different guys out there. And with Wan'Dale, we saw the good run after the catch last week, that little pass in the flat, and then he turned it up and gained 20 yards, and Hyatt's made some plays down the field, so I think it makes more sense.
Yep.
All right, let's go to Marty and Manahawkin. He's going to be, I think, our last caller today. We'll see if we can squeeze on one more. Marty, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, John? Hey,
what's
Paul.
up?
Hi.
Hey, either of you have any stats that you could pull up to actually see how Darren Waller has performed against the Jets in the past? Is there any way to get that?
Well, our wonderful producer, Dom, here, who is just showing up Pearson, did pull this for us before we even got you on the air. So against the Jets in his career, Waller, do you know how many, in 3 games, has caught 16 passes for 242 yards. In 1 game, he had 200 yards and 2 touchdowns back in 2020. So great job, Dom.
Nice.
I'm going to have to tell Pearson about this and tell him he has to step up his game. So there you go, Marty. Thank Dom for that.
And Waller coming off his season's best game against Washington, too. That may also bode well.
Yeah. I don't want to start a war between Dom and Pearson.
Oh, I do.
So.
I do. That's okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Dom and Pearson both do an excellent job, though Dom just moved ahead of him in the hierarchy.
Wow. That didn't take much.
I'm just trying to cause discord in the studio. That's all I'm trying to do.
I
It's
understand.
Fun for me, but not for anyone else. Paul, so your kind of thoughts here. You're going to be on again on Friday, but just your midweek thoughts here. You don't have to do your prediction game preview or whatever, but just kind of the things you'll be looking at, watching tape on, researching, and just thinking about these next couple of days.
Well, first things first, obviously we've got to figure out what kind of Giants offensive line combination is going to play. So in the next 48 hours, I'm really curious to see that if Thomas makes it back, does Pugh go to one of the guard spots?
Yeah, we actually talked about this on yesterday's show. I don't know.
I don't
Honestly,
know either.
The way Glowinski has played the
He's
last couple
playing
weeks,
well.
I have a hard time taking him off the field.
I know.
So especially if Bredesen gets moved off a guard from center, he's taking one of the guard spots. So
Yeah.
who takes the other one? I think that is interesting.
They like McKeithen. They don't seem to want to take him out.
You remember, though, he was behind Glowinski on the depth chart last week, or 2 weeks ago when it was Pugh
Yes.
and Glowinski as the two starting guards.
And then if you're going to move Bredesen away from center, if Schmitz makes it back, well, now Bredesen's going to be in the guard mix, isn't he?
I think then you would probably go back to Bredesen left guard and Glowinski right guard, or then would you put Bredesen to right guard and Pugh at left guard? Because I think Pugh would probably stay on
Pugh's
the left
be a left
side.
guy right now.
Right.
He's
I
going to be
agree.
left if he plays.
So that is interesting. I don't know how they'll handle
That to me right now is the biggest question I have because, as I said earlier, I'm not so much concerned about Daniel Jones' situation. I'm more concerned about how this O-line's going to shake out.
I agree. I think that's interesting. I got a couple emails here at bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. We got a couple minutes. I might as well take them. Paul, Dave Cammons wants to know what are the rules for putting a player on injured reserve as far as the severity of their injury? Does the doctor need to verify that an injury will take a long-term time to heal, like more than a week or 4 weeks, which is what the minimum IR number is?
No, there's nothing about that. The only thing that you'll have over the years, and this has not happened with the Giants, but over the years, you'll have a team that may want to put a guy in injury reserve because they think he's dinged up, and he'll say, no, I'm really not hurt that bad. I don't need to go. And then if he wants to, he can file a grievance with the players union saying they're trying to put me on IR, and I'm really not that badly hurt. That's about the only regulation where the league gets involved in IR.
And Matt Peart got put on injured reserve along with Eric Gray this week, by the way.
Yes,
We did not
well,
mention that
again,
earlier in the show.
right.
He's dealing with the shoulder issue. So
Pert's had that for weeks now.
this one from Jamel Salim. This is for the callers that are calling for Daniel Jones's head. I'm not sure they're quite doing that. But if you're doing that, you're not understanding football. When Jones was in, it was like an injury plague that was going on around the offensive line. No fight on the offensive line. Leadership was lacking, and Jones couldn't buy enough time to showcase the weapons. He did miss throws, but so was Tyrod. Stop the Jones hate because the defense is carrying the team, and Tyrod is making our offense run like it should. Doesn't mean that he needs to start. Steven Stepka has a practice squad elevation rule question for you, Paul. I'm in Austin, Texas. Been a listener since day one pre-video. Wow. I've called once you and Feegs when you reminisce about your offices in the bowels of the old stadium. I appreciate that, Steven. Thank you for listening. My question, if DJ can't go against the Jets and DeVito has to be called up from the practice squad for the third time, what happens? I believe 3 elevations is the max for a player, and then it is mandatory he gets signed to the 53. Can he stay in the practice squad but not get elevated again? Does he have to be waived and then brought back to the practice squad? Will we have to bring him in as a different practice squad quarterback? What are the rules if he does get elevated for the third time this weekend?
Okay, once you're elevated for the third time, okay, on that 4th week, all right, if you want to bring him up, he's got to come up to the 53. You don't have a choice anymore.
I thought after 3 times it was either cut or sign him.
No.
Am I wrong about that?
No.
Okay. So he can go back to the practice squad after the third time.
He can go back to the practice squad and stay there. But if you want to bring him up, he has got to be signed to the 53. You don't have a choice anymore. You can't bounce him back and forth a 4th time. That is not allowed. Now, here's the other thing you got to keep in mind, too. All right. If you do that and you're going to bring DeVito back up and sign him to the 53 for a fourth bounce up, if you will, that's going to take somebody else's spot on the 53. You got to remember that. So that's impactful in 2 ways. Number one, you lose the flexibility of him bouncing because now you have to make a move. Second, you're going to take somebody else's spot that's got to get sent out of the building or for that matter, that person gets demoted to practice squad if they can clear waivers. So that's a twofold issue if you have to bring up DeVito for a fourth game.
Absolutely. So let's say this league, the league of you can elevate a player 3 times. After that, the player has to be added to the 53-man roster if the team wants to use him in a game. So that's to your point. All right, so you were right about that. It's not my bad, folks. Paul, excellent.
No, all good. No, all good. Hey, they've changed the practice squad rules so many times in the last 10 years, and then COVID really threw a wrench into the whole thing.
All right, Nick Polak, last question before we say goodbye here. We started a couple minutes late. Question about the O-line. Tyree Phillips looks great. Again, folks, send in your emails to bigbluekickoff@gmail.com, bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. As you can see, on Wednesdays with Paul, I tend to get to your emails. Since there's not a whole lot going on, we haven't had practice yet this week. We try to get to them on Wednesdays. Question on the O-line. Tyree Phillips looked really good in the Commanders game. Gawinski next to him looked much better. Is it perhaps due to the fact that you think Phillips communicates better with his guard than maybe Neal has in the past?
Boy, you know, I
hard
thought,
for me to answer that. I don't really know what to say.
I'll say this. Tyree Phillips held up pretty darn well last week against Washington. I will say that. And for a guy who just got back here a few days before the game, that was a very admirable performance. And we know that he's played tackle in this league before. It's not like he's a newbie. Okay, the guy's been around a few years, so he knows what he's doing. But did communication have anything to do with it? I wouldn't even venture a guess.
And I will say this, and I think this probably helped, and this has been the case. This was the case for the Cardinals, too, if I remember properly. The Commanders don't use a lot of stunts.
No.
They just set up their guys on one-on-one
We're coming
rushes.
straight at you.
So that helps, I think, with the lack of continuity and the communication, because you don't have to communicate as much if it's a lot of one-on-one situations, Paul, and it's not necessarily guys having to pass off stunts and things like that.
The Jets will, though.
They have like the 3rd or 4th highest rate.
Very high.
The way the Jets rush the passer is very similar to the way Dallas rushes the passer.
They
have waves of rushers. They run a lot of stunts and twists. So go back and think about how week 1 went in terms of how you got to block those guys up. It's very similar to what the Jets do.
Right. So you better be ready for it.
Yes, it's going to be really, really, really tough.
Hence,
against that front.
Run the ball.
And Vinny, I've gotten your multiple emails about not fumbling the football and how you're supposed to hold the ball. I don't know how to answer them. They're very long and detailed, but I'm not sure what you want me to say about it.
How about just high and tight?
Yes, and then the Giants are right in the middle of the league in terms of fumbles lost. I don't really think that's been necessarily a huge issue for them this year.
Well, handling punts has not been so good.
Muffs has been, but once you're actually carrying the ball, they haven't had a ton of fumbles carrying the ball this year, which is kind of what his emails are regarding. Paul, good stuff, my friend.
Yeah, another good day.
You've been listening to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Giants. I'll be back with you with Casillas tomorrow, then Lance and Paul on Friday. We have our special Saturday morning edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live at 9 a.m. Make sure you tune into that. And then our pregame coverage on Sunday will start at 11 a.m. on WFAN. If you're going to the game, stop by MetLife Central. Say hi to Paul, Casillas, and I at the MetLife Gate. We'll have a bunch of good stuff going on with you there, including some giveaways. For Paul Dottino, for Dom, now producer 1 in the books.
Wow.
I'm John Schmelk. I'm terrible.
You really are.
We'll see you tomorrow at 12:30 on Big Blue Kickoff Live.